Alright, so we're off to a good start. Um, we've seen a lot of different operators. We've seen variables. We know how to get input from the user and then, of course, output that as a formatted output using a print function. So we're pretty much ready to start coding on a basic level anyways. So the next thing I'm going to move you into is something called condition statements. And those are basically if, else if, else. So to get started, we're going to go up here and we're going to get a new file. We're going to save it as condition.py. Save as. Of course, go down here, D drive, go into my Python, and we're going to call this condition. Make sure it's a Python file and click Save. So what is a condition statement? Well, in a sense, it is a flow chart for your program. So one of the simplest ones is to see if a number is greater than, less than, or equal to another number. So I'm going to start by creating two variables, and we're going to get input from the user. Okay, and we're going to get an integer. Alright, so it's going to look like this. Of course, I'm going to cast it to an int right off the bat. Get the input, enter an integer x, and enter an integer y. So right now, if we run this, of course this will run. We haven't told it what to do, but if I type in 5 over here and then hit enter, prompts me for y, I'll type in 6, hit enter, and of course we didn't tell it to do anything else yet. So here's where I'm going to put in my first condition. I'm going to say if x is greater than y, and then you end that with a colon, hit enter, it automatically indents. We're going to do something. We're just going to print out x is greater than y. Alright, so it'll look like that. So now if I run this, now we want to make sure that x is greater than y, so I'm going to put in x as being 6, and I'll put in y as being 5. We get x is greater than y. However, if I run it again and do it the opposite, so we'll put 5 for x and 6 for y, we get nothing because we didn't tell it anything else. So I want to add another statement down here saying else if or elif in Python. Alright, and when we do this, it's going to stay indented because it's waiting for more lines of code for you to type under the if condition, because you can type multiple lines of code in there. So from here you just hit the backspace and then type in elif. And here we're going to say if x is less than y, and once again put a colon after that, and hit enter. It automatically indents. And then we're just going to copy this line right here. So highlight it, then Control C, bring it down here, Control V, and just change this to x is less than y. And of course, if we run it now and try both of those, so we'll try 6 for x and 5 for y, just like before. Now it gives us x is greater than y, which it is. And then if we run it again and type in 5 and 6, so 5 for, oh, excuse me, not up there, down here, 5 for x and 6 for y, then we get x is less than y. Now we still have another alternative, because if we enter the same number, 5 and 5, of course we don't get anything because x isn't greater than y and it's not less than y because 5 and 5 are the same. So we have to add a third condition in here. And if we had more conditions, we could put more elifs in there. So I'm going to put just else with a colon. And we're going to print out. So once again, we can copy this. Control C and Control V. X is equal to Y. And now we have all of our bases covered on this particular program, because if it's not less than and it's not greater than, everything else is going to be equal to. But always check your code to make sure that you didn't mistype something. So we're going to rerun it. I'm going to start with 5 and 5. And x is equal to y. Alright, so it comes down here, it checks this condition. That's not it. Checks this condition. That's not it. And then goes down to the else and does whatever's in the else. So now let's rerun it and check our other two. So we'll say we're going to go with x being less than y. So let me go with 5 and 6. Alright, so once again, it came down here. Check this one. It didn't apply. So it goes to the next one. Alright, x is less than y. I'll print this. And it doesn't come down here and check the else. It just jumps down into whatever's left. So since this is the end of our code, it just exits that if, elif, else statement, also known as a condition statement. And then finally, we run 6 for x and 5 for y, and we get x is greater than y. And once again, it comes down here, checks this one, and if it's true, it does whatever's in here, and then doesn't even look through the rest of these. So we're going to find out down the road that this is very important, because if you don't do these in the correct order, you could wind up returning something and it's not what you wanted. So a good example of that would be something like if we wanted to see how high a number is. So if we said if x plus y, and then we said is greater than 1, or we'll say greater than 0, then we're going to say x plus y is greater than 0. Okay, and then we come down here and we want to check if it's greater than 10, so we'll do the same thing here, but we'll say greater than 10. And then we'll go ahead and move this down in here and we'll just say greater than 10. So Control C to copy it, Control V to paste. And then we'll just get rid of this else statement. So this is an example of something that's not going to give you the intended results that you want because it's not in the correct order. We should be checking to see if it's greater than 10 prior to 0, because if it's greater than 10, it's going to be greater than 0. So let me go ahead and run this, show you what I mean. So we'll just use the same two numbers. So I say 5 and 6. And when I run this, it jumps in here and it says is or if 5 plus 6 is greater than 0. We're going to print this out. So let's go down here and enter it. And it's sure enough, it's x plus y is greater than 0. Okay, but it's also greater than 10. But as you can see, it didn't even check that. It went with the first one and then jumped out of it. So we wanted that it's greater than 10. So let me go ahead and put 10 up here. put 0 down here. Then of course change these. Now if I run this, I will get the intended results that I want. So anything that's greater than 10 will print out up here, and anything that's 10 or below will print out down here. Of course, as long as I'm using a positive integer. So let's rerun this. Use the same two numbers, 5 and 6. And as you can see, x plus y is greater than 10. If I run it again and do 5 and 5, of course now it's 10, and I said greater than 10. So this one should say x plus y is greater than 0. And it does. Alright, so that's just an intro to how condition statements work. We'll definitely get a lot more in depth with them as we go on. But the thing to remember is once a condition is checked, it's done. It skips all the other conditions. Or I should say more precisely, once a condition is met, then it does whatever's in that code and skips all the other conditions. Alright, so that's it for condition statements. We'll get into loops in the next few videos.